Let's start off with kind of putting this in context. $35 million, unlucky or unprepared?
I think it's unlucky and probably unprepared as well. And what I mean by that is there are so many entities and companies out there that really don't understand the risk. So there's a lot of companies that are out there and exposed. Sony was probably just one of the unlucky ones that got targeted.
Craig, you say this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I think so. I mean, I agree with James. Generally, companies are poorly prepared. If you're connected to the internet, then you're connected to the problem.
Exactly.
And, the reality is modern business requires the internet to do business, and therefore we're all exposed to the problems.
We talk about it, and we talk about it on the show almost every day, and yet CEOs come on here and they seem unprepared.
Yeah, right? Boards, I think, seem unprepared. Where does the communication gap lie, Craig?
Well, I think the reality is this is a business risk problem, but historically it's been treated as a technology problem and in the domain of the CTO or the technology team. But traditional security measures, what we'd sort of call perimeter security and networks, just isn't cutting the mustard anymore. The reality is the actors that are perpetrating these cyber crimes or cyber attacks are very sophisticated. And so the game's really changed. It's gone to a whole different level. And I think we've seen that with Sony, we've seen it with Target, we've seen it with Home Depot, and I think there's many more to come, to be honest.
James?
I would agree with all that, and I would add that the reason why I think there's this disconnect is when you go to the boards and you go to the CEO, you need to speak about risk and managing risk. There's two mindsets in the corporate boards. One is there should be no reason that we would ever lose anything, so it puts an unfair expectation that you can prevent yourself from ever being attacked, which is impossible. And then the other one is whenever you're talking to the boards and the CEOs, the technology teams aren't communicating these things in the way that they can make a risk decision. What's the potential impact? What's the likelihood? How much is that going to cost me? So you should spend this much to protect yourself. That really isn't the way the conversation happens.
No.
How much is this much?
Yeah.
I mean, is it 10% of your revenue? Is it how much do I have to spend? Let's say I have a medium business with 100 employees.
Is there a number?
I'll go try. What I would recommend and what we do is think of it this way as hedging. As you use derivatives to hedge your risk in currency and things like that. You understand what your currency exposure is, and you say, how much risk am I willing to take on that, and you hedge the rest. They can do the same thing with the risk of having their intellectual property taken, their customers hit, and figure out our remediation cost and our reputation cost would be this. So I should probably spend 10, 15% of what that is to protect myself. That's a good ROI.
I agree. I mean, the real issue companies are facing, particularly large corporates, is they really don't understand where their digital assets are and what they are. So therefore, they're unable to quantify the risk.
So we need some sort of assessment. Sort of to your point about we can't protect everything. Do companies go through a sort of priority process and say, this is really important, that is less important. Therefore, we need to skew our spending to make sure that this is... and some of this is going to be intangible, some of it is going to be tangible. When they're working their way through the process of understanding the risk, how do they do it?
I mean, good boards and good CEOs have been through financial crisis, economic challenges, regulatory challenges. This is managing risk in business is not a new thing.
No, precisely.
And this is
but
just
digital is new, right? And so, do you understand? Does the CEO understand the cloud computing, or, I mean, what
do they understand the exposure and the risk?
Digital.
Yes.
Is this new?
Yeah, I think it is. But the way so we recommend basically 3 easy steps. First thing was Craig said, know your assets, know what could be, where are the crown jewels. Develop different levels of protection because it's expensive to do this. So you can't, a bank doesn't put the vault on the front door. You know, you have different levels and depth of protection. And then once you know what your exposure is in terms of real dollars and real capital costs, then you can say, all right, then I should be spending this much. And that's a different conversation than one that happens. I think that kind of conversation probably happens in maybe 10% of the Fortune 500 and FTSE.
Sony, some of the risk was emails. Some of it was reputation. It was like, this is really basic stuff. This isn't financial data. This isn't IP. These are emails, and that's where the damage was caused. So getting you can go and you can protect all of that, but you still don't have a grasp on where the real risk lies.
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, Sony have reported a financial impact, but what's really hidden is what's it done to their reputation. How's it affected operations?
Yeah.
How has it really affected the profile or the risk profile of their business going forward? What sort of flow and impact has that had to other companies that they do business with, their suppliers, their customers? So the thing that's really different about the cyber problem is it's far-reaching. The actors in this environment are very sophisticated and dynamic. And I think the realisation of boards and CEOs is this is a significant problem now, and it's going to be quite challenging to figure out how to address it.
That's a good point, because there's this view that there are about 1,000 people in the world that have the skills to do something like this, and the reality is there are millions of people that could do this. So if you're exposed, the likelihood of someone successfully attacking you is very high, because it's an efficient market. You can go on the darknet and IRC chat, and you can find usernames, passwords, email addresses of all key people and companies, which is what you need to do a simple phishing attack or something like that. So they have to understand it's a well-organized, efficient market, and lots of people are going to be coming at you. It's only a matter of time when you're going to get hit. So how do you prepare, and then do you have in place capabilities to respond?
And recover.
And recover, without having to run around circles for a while, which always happens in crisis.
Thank you so much. I feel like I need to go and download some kind of antivirus in my computer. Guys, thank you so much for a great conversation. James Fox, Head of Cyber Defense Services at KPMG, and Craig Richardson, CEO of Wynyard.